We're going to move on to chapter 16. We're closing down to the tail end of this book, getting down to the last nitty-gritty final details, and we're going to be on schedules and tags. Make sure you download your NER 16 file or continue on previous files or start anew once again with this file in Moodle. It'll open us up to starting on the level 1 floor plan, and we're going to talk about schedules to start chapter 16. So in general, a Revit model is full of databases amongst other things. So creating things like schedules, they're very common in plan sets. Populating any entity you see in here, whether it be doors, walls, stairs, floors, elevation views. Undo that. Windows, openings, components of any type. They get populated deep in Revit into a database. So your Revit project is basically a database for stuff like this. So creating schedules, whereas in AutoCAD and other things in architecture plans and structural plans is very manual, monotonous. A Revit model can be edited in the schedule. It can be edited on the component which corresponds to the schedule. A lot of this stuff can be edited at a two-way street. So we're going to see that in this chapter, which is very powerful. And also we're going to go a little deeper to not just doing schedules, but we're going to do material takeoffs. What I mean by that is really deep quantities of materials. So we're going to do something like how many square footage of brick in this wall in this entire project do we have? How many plywood sheets in the entire project we're going to quantify, and that's a lot of times not shown always on a plan set because it's too risky and too much of an encumbrance to try to get correct, to be held liable for a contractor or architects, structural engineers. To go to that level of detail on plans is quite painstaking because you get held to that high standard of design. So anyway, that is a capability Revit has, and it does come big into play as we get into quantity estimates to estimate materials and costs and all kinds of things. So with that started, we're going to start on level 1 floor plan and make our first schedule. And we're going to go to the View tab and Schedules. And we're just going to go to Schedule Quantities button here. Our next dialog opens up, and we're going to start with, you can see just how many things, vast amount of things you can create a schedule from. Almost anything you can think of in a drawing, outside of maybe certain annotations, possibly, and very specific drawing type things like detail lines and model lines. And in fact, that even might be an option to add those. I'm just curious. So there's even things in annotations that you can add schedules for. So we have a huge database in a Revit project file. So we're going to start with doing doors. If we select doors, and then we're going to hit OK. It's going to take us to our schedule properties, which later we'll find out we can access in the properties area. We're going to add our first few things, our parameters, and we're going to move into page 737 to 738. We're going to add several things. We're going to start by adding mark. That's the first thing. We're going to add parameter. And we're going to add several other things. Height. Width. I've been typing in the W to get me there quicker. FYI. Level. Finish. Frame material. Frame type. And comments added. We're building our schedule out basically. And we're going to hit OK. It's going to take us to a schedule area. Give it a second. It's thinking. Our door schedule is now created with the specifications we made. I'm going to cascade down some stuff in the project browser, and you have our sheets, our families, our groups. Our schedules populate here. So we have our door schedule now of this nature, and it opened up a new tab for us. So that's all there is to it, to the first intro to this. From that point, because Revit's a database, think about building a schedule where we're creating a query for what we want in said database. So that's basically what we just did there, but it's going to become a permanent feature of our drawing if we so choose to want that. One thing they say, they just changed a couple things to all caps. It'd be nice if schedules more wanted to populate that way. I'm not. That's probably more of an advanced command because most architectural plans, structural plans are in all caps. Oftentimes it's more the standard. There is a little complaint about that in the book. So we're going to select some headers. I'm looking over onto page 740, and we're going to make some subheaders. We're going to basically change the formatting like Excel style here a little bit. We're going to look for comments. We're going to hold on to comments. We're going to pick on the comment cell, undo that, pick, and I'm going to drag. So I picked and dragged, and I'm going to drag all the way to the left like this. So I'm holding and dragging. And at this point I'm going to go to the shading area on step 4, and I'm going to pick this gray color here. Hit OK. I'm going to hit escape. I changed all the shading to gray in my schedule, kind of like an Excel type thing. We're going to move on to show that you can access that properties here. So the dialog I had when I was creating the schedule, you can access it really quickly and easily here in the schedule in these areas. So it has us going at this point to the sorting and grouping area. Hit edit. You can go bounce between the tabs here as well, but it took us right to the sorting and grouping area. And we're going to basically look at the picture on page 741 is what we're mimicking. We're going to say we're going to sort by level, and I'm going to pick header and footer. On this, I'm going to have title count and totals, which probably came as default. I'm going to say ascending for the order. I think we did grand totals later, but I'm just going to keep it to the facts on this one. Itemize every instance, and we'll hit OK. So it's segregated areas about levels of our doors within each level. As you can see, and it totaled them within each level. On level 5 we have 5 doors. On level 1 we have the most, 32. The height and the width and what level they're on is what we made in our schedule. So we're going to move on to 741, controlling headers, and we're still in the door schedule area. On the top of the schedule, we're going to learn a little bit more about formatting stuff within our schedules. So we're going to combine a few things. We're going to combine some headers of the number, height, width, and level. So, or mark. So let's just say I pick this level, like this. I go like that. Let's say group. So I just grouped those 3 things. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that. You can also hit Shift, grab one, hold Shift, and grab multiple as well. As well as, let me pick left click out here, you could grab one, left pick, and drag across. I'll group those 2 different ways. And I'm going to say door information. I'm basically making a merged cell above. Just doing some more formatting. In this case, I missed one. Let's see if I can get that this time. Grabbed all 4, I believe, that time. There we go. doing some formatting. I'm going to do the same over here, and I'm going to change the header in another area. Basically just, we can do control, I'll hold shift and left click, so I grab 2, select group, which was up here. I can also ungroup that, similar to Excel. Left click out. So I'm just doing some basic formatting. Now we're going to modify some elements in the schedule, and we're going to bounce between the schedule and its real place and a different level, and show that you can go either way to edit things inside the properties, which is pretty cool compared to a lot of other programs where that process was very static. So I'm going to move to figure 111, and I'm just going to pick, for example, we're doing just the finish of this given item. There's no options here, so I'm just going to type in PT for paint, shorthand, and this one they have us do it again. Now we're going to go back after we did that to level 1. So it's just saying, okay, I made some materials. Now I'm going to pick whatever door I want on this level 1. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to say finish right here. Well, not paint. You have the option because we've done 1 already. As we populate this, there's going to be more. So I'm just going to type in WD here. So I have this door selected first, and I change the properties. Now if I go back to the door schedule, they're going to be interlinked. So this updated, I can update it here or graphically. That's a very key thing to get in this part between the database of the actual component and the schedule you made for said doors here. So that's the point of that. We're going to move to page 745, and we're going to go back to the door schedule, which we're in, and we're going to go to the properties dialog and edit button for appearance. And this gets a little tricky. We're going to add a bunch of things similar to figure 16.13 or 1613, and we're going to change some formatting of a few things. So the grid lines are going to stay thin. We're going to say outline around is going to go to medium lines, and we're going to keep these the same. We're just configuring the schedule's appearance, basically. That's all we're doing. We're doing more of how it looks like Excel style. So it just made a thicker line around here, which maybe we could even exaggerate that a little bit and say wide lines so you can really see it. So the lines got a little wider. Anyway, that's all that's trying to say. So let's say we got this schedule about done. We're not going to do the mundane task of adding hundreds of things here. We're going to want to add this, let's say, to a sheet, right? I'm going to go to my sheets here. I don't have so many created, but I'm going to go to Sheets All. I'm going to start by saying I want a new sheet. I'm going to grab one of the only options I have currently still. I'm going to say, okay, that's fine. It's going to go to the new sheet. And I'm going to go to the door schedule, which I still have cascaded open here in the project browser. Don't double click it. I'm going to left click, hold, drag it out here. I released it a little too soon. I still have it gripped. Pull it where you want and put the door schedule wherever you see fit to start. The last click. So you can see you got some of your formatting. You got your thick edge, you got your gray. We have our merge cells up here. It's just saying now we're going to try a couple things. We're going to first learn this blue grip in the middle. When we select a schedule in Revit, it's blue. Go to this little icon. It's really hard to see. Split schedule table. That means it's going to split at least one spot. Therefore, we got a split here. we can use our grip here to change where we want it split by dragging and pulling. Keeps it dynamic and live. We got that taken care of. I'm going to hit escape. And it says to go up to the columns, and we're going to check out some of the grips up here. We have some grips on the top. These can be drug out, so I'm going to expand the comments column only. Or I might want to expand that one up, frame type. So those are the grips there. That pretty much ends where we're going to talk about schedules for now. They had one last thing. They said if you pick the schedule, you got a couple extra areas on the options to rotate it clockwise and counterclockwise, which we don't really have a need to do that. I'll hit Control Z and I'll just leave it with no rotation. At that point, we're going to bounce into starting material takeoffs, which is the next area of this chapter. So material takeoffs or quantity takeoffs, however you want to say it, are much like schedules, but we're going to get even deeper into quantifying something. So for example, we're going to make some quantifications of square footage of exact door panels, or you could do the amount of glass on doors is what the book says. We're going to do the amount of plywood sheathing in the entire project. Then we're going to even break it down further and say how many 4x8 sheets total of that do we have. So it's a deeper breakdown on schedules basically in a quantifiable form. So we're just going to pick up where we left off. I'm just going to continue on the sheet I made, or you can be in the door schedule, wherever you are in the project. We're going to go to the View tab, a new area here for us in Schedules, Material Takeoff. You can see you have a vast amount of options here. So we're just going to pick, to start, out of all the options, not quite as many options as schedules, because these have to be more quantifiable items people would generally want in their plans to quantify. I'm going to say walls, and we're going to hit OK. We're going to pick the things we want to quantify. I'm going to start by going M for material, and we're going to get here. We're going to do material area first, add parameter, material name, and lastly, looking for, just count, not material count, count total. We'll hit that. Now we're going to go to the sorting grouping tab, and there's a big mistake. Well, at least they skipped some steps on the picture on page 751, so just follow along with me here and we'll get it close enough. We're going to select material name here. We're going to put a footer on it, and we're going to say title count and totals, yes. We're going to put a blank line in between. We're going to say grand totals at the bottom, yes. We're also going to pick title count and totals, and we're going to have this selected as well. So grand total selected, itemize every instance selected. Continued from 750 to 751 into 752, page 752. We're pretty much ready to create that. We'll hit OK, give it a minute to think. We got our first wall material takeoff, square footage of different types of wall. We have air here, air barrier, like a vapor barrier, not a vapor barrier. We have brick, cherry wood, concrete masonry units, cast in place concrete. See, I'm using my slider grip here. Gypsum, sheetrock, mahogany wood, metal studs, plywood sheathing, which we're going to get into later. So we have totals of each one. That was some of our options, and we have grand totals at the very bottom. So that's where those options came into play, of how this quantity turns out for our entire building. I'm going to go back to the top. So this is the second area of the chapter that's really confusing. I don't think they even have the right picture. I got as close as I could, but we're going to go from our initial quantities of walls we started. We're going to go to the field on the left here, and we're going to, we're going to go to the edit button in the formatting row here to get back in here, and we're going to start in the formatting area basically, or in the row. We're messing with the material takeoff properties now, and what we're going to change in the field formatting, I'm going to just make sure it says on the right calculate tools, which is kind of confusing. I'm just going to say calculate totals here. I'm pretty sure that's all we need. And make sure I have material area selected in the field. So this and this is I'm pretty sure what they're getting after. I'm going to hit OK. Now we have quantities. The area of each type of material in each individual wall, and then totals quantified on the bottom. So it should look similar to the picture on the bottom of 753, and that's what I have going here. At the very bottom, we should have a grand total of all, but this is our total for each type of wall. So that was a mistake in the book. It didn't specify the right options, or at least word it well. So we'll move to page 754, and we're going to create a calculated value field. And so we're going to kind of add a formula. We're not kind of, we're going to add a formula and get a little deeper to quantify our plywood. So let's start by going in the same view here. So we already have our wall material, and we're going to pick that since we already have it started. And similar to other views, you can duplicate them. You can't duplicate with detailing because it's a Excel spreadsheet. It doesn't have detailing and annotations in a model. It's a spreadsheet. Same with dependent. You can only duplicate, which we're going to do. Should duplicate here in a second. You can right click rename, or double click slow, or single click slow. I'm going to call this plywood takeoff. Materials. I put a bad character in there I didn't like. It let me know pretty fast. Okay. Now it's obviously the same stuff as our wall material takeoff, but we're going to change that in a second. So let's go to the properties dialog and the edit button. We're going to do filter row. Now that we're in our plywood takeoff. And we're going to filter by material name, and we're going to select a name. I'm looking at the picture to help you out a little bit and say equals exactly this. It begins with the different Boolean operators kind of here in a way, if then statements, less than, sort of like Boolean operators. We'll go to plywood sheathing. It has to equal that, and I'm going to hit OK. That's going to modify everything. So it modified our schedule basically. You could do the old standard. This would be kind of annoying, or someone would maybe just get used to having things in sentence case instead of all caps. But anyway, so you should have something that looks a lot like this, our total square footage. And we're going to go one step further and add sizes to these sheets. Say 4x8 sheets. How many of those do we have? So I'm going to go to the properties and edit in the fields row again here. And now we're going to make sure we have everything looking good, which we still have here. Material area name count. We're fine. We're just going to add. Actually, I'm going to double make sure I don't mess anything up there. I'll say fields. I don't want to select anything yet in there, but I'm going to select add calculated parameter, which is a new command for us. They call it calculated value, but I'm going to say number of sheets. Leave it in all caps. We're going to leave that as a Formula, make sure common selected and number, they should be, but you never know. I'm going to say, instead of typing it in, you got to type it in exact or it won't work. I'm going to use this ellipsis dot dot dot, and I'm going to pull my material area from here, and I'm going to use the divided symbol, divide /32. And we need to type in SF exactly here. Hit OK. Number of sheets is a new category here that ends up right there in the fields, and then formatting, it's also here. So make sure you select this first. Moving on, this is key. Horizontal, we're going to go show conditional format on sheets. We're going to say calculate totals here. This is getting pretty deep into schedules and material quantities. Now we'll hit OK. Added all the number of sheets. I think I forgot to do one thing, was to tighten up the number of sheets. So looks like that's what we're going to do in here now. So let's go back here, and in the field format button, which is right here, field format, we're going to say no to this one here. We're going to say fixed. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. Number of sheets. Go here. First key, second here, third, fourth, fifth, 0 decimal places. So you can see how I have all my decimal places up here. We're going to eliminate that. We're going to use digit grouping, which I'm not sure what that is, but I'm going with all the other settings. Makes sense to me. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to hit OK again. It brought them down to, use my grips, to a whole number integer, because you can only have, by plywood, let's say in a 4x8 sheet, it's rounding it up or down to a nearest integer. And that's it for that. That was a pretty deep quantities estimate and quantifying plywood sheets. So the next area we're going to get into is creating key legends on page 759. So key legends or legends, there's a ton of different types of legends. So we have legends of abbreviations, we have graphical legends of different symbols. Any symbol you could think of really on a map. Think about a map you looked at as a kid, any type of symbol on that map. Also, you have line type legends, which are also, say, on maps you looked at as a kid. Any type of line type is called out as common to a drawing. And another very common one are symbols legends, so like section view headers and keynotes and all kinds of little bubble notes we're about to put, or titles to sheets. Those are different drawing symbols, so they all can have different legends, and they're very common, and they can be a pretty comprehensive list, but we're going to start by learning how to add some of these. And all it has us do to start is go to the View tab. There's a new area for us, Legends, and Legend button. And now we're going to call it Door Type Legend. I'm just going to do all caps. 1/4 of an inch to a foot is our starting scale. We'll say yes. We have a blank slate. Great. That's a good thing in this case, so we can draft and add components to this legend. We're not going to add hundreds of them. We're just going to show you how to add a door in plan view and elevation view. So top, and also the Z, the elevation view, we'll see here in a second. So we'll go to now the Annotate tab, and make sure I have that right. Yeah, we have it right. We're in the Annotate tab, in the Detail panel, and the Component. And the last thing, you probably had one of these on from previous drafting 2D stuff, but I'm going to do a new command, Legend Component. So placing on our Legend sheet links to stuff. And in this case, we got to go to our options bar. We can place a legend from all types of any family related to our drawing. And we're going to go to doors, type in D to start there. We have a pile of them, but go to the bottom of them here ish and say doors, passage, single flush, 30 inch by 80 inch. Pick that. And in this case, we're going to have also, the first thing we're going to have open is we're going to do the elevation front style of the door. So it comes in an elevation view like you're standing and looking at it, right? And we're just going to pick it out here somewhere. We still got the command running. We're going to next put not another one of these or back. If you went to elevation back, it flips it. We're going to do floor plan, so top view in a way, or is. And here we're going to say 6 feet to the host length. Lengthens out that. I'm going to use my alignment tool here, the dot 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 line, to align them automatically. I'm going to hit escape. We got that going. So I'm starting a little legend of my first thing. Just this is more of graphical legend, right? I'm going to add now in the annotate tab some text. Make sure we have no leader. Pick here, and we're going to call it just type A, type a door. That's all we're doing. Make sure it's the text 3/32 Arial. Not a big deal if you get it wrong, but that's what they wanted. So best to build a lot of these legends from scratch until you get the hang of a legend and you get it the way you want. You can reuse in other jobs, but it's better than having to draw it all yourself, which can be a nightmare. So we're going to move to page 764, and we're going to do more learning on tags, which we've already done tags and other things when we've added components. For example, on level 1, we have all kinds of tags. These doors, and these windows, on our rooms for that matter. So we're familiar with them a little bit. We're going to go a little deeper, start simple and go more complex. We're just going to start taking some walls. So I'm going to go somewhere different here. I'm going to go back up a notch to the level 2 floor plan. Double click it. I'm going to zoom into the east wing. Over here is where they want us to start, just to this wall. And I'm going to click the tag by category button up here. Attaches the tag to an element based on that element's said category. And let's see if they want any special options. I'm basically just going to pick this wall somewhere in here so it hovers out that way. Hit escape once, twice. Pick this. You can edit the direction like that. You can pick it, use your 4-sided arrow to move it. This is universal, but it also stays linked. You can also pick on this question mark to name it something. Name it MC1. You're changing a type. This type, which is this wall tag, I'm changing it to MC1. I want that to happen here, so I'm going to say yes. So now that we've made one for this type, wall tag 1/2 inch, if I add another one and I say tag by category, say to a wall here, we've done these doors and windows, that's all good and fine, but we're going to add for this exterior wall. It already automatically does it because I defined it as that in the type. So I'm going to move that out. So we're just tagging our exterior walls real quick on that. So we're going to move next to one of the best commands in Revit that people seem to like, is the tag all command. So you can quickly tag multiple things at once. So, and I'm going to show you where some of that information is stored. So for example, let me just select this one type of window, right? And I'm going to go to edit type of this said one window, fixed 36 by 72 inch. And I'm going to go down here to identity within the database of this family. And this type mark, this is the default tag it comes in as. We did a little bit of this earlier in the book. If I do this, let's just go to this wall I just made. I don't think this one will work the same, but I'm going to hit edit type. Yeah, okay, it did. They all have any element. I just defined this tag as MC1 just a second ago. So this is where this information is populated, which is kind of key to know. I'm going to hit cancel, escape, ready on to the next command. And we're going to go to tag all, which we've semi-used in this book a little bit. We're going to pick door tags. We're going to pick window tags. And make sure you have this radio button selected. It should be selected already, but in case it isn't, just make sure it is. And we're going to hit OK. So everything that wasn't tagged now is. So I'm going to zoom out. Let's hit Control Z once actually, just to see if it did anything. Yeah, it did. Control Y. You can see some things popped in here. I wanted to kind of show the whole view while I did that. So Control Z. Maybe let me zoom out to show you it populate a little better. Tag all, do doors, windows, just this current view, level 1 or level 2, and see what I all added. Z, Control Y. So I added several at once. The ones I didn't, copy paste to selected view with modify, copying and pasting, you might have missed some. Or you're designing a bunch of stuff on level 1 here and you copy them up to level 2 as you go along, and you don't have time to always tag everything. It helps you fill in the gaps as your design progresses. You need to add more things quickly and automated. So one of the last commands of tags before we get into keynotes is tagging by material, which is pretty handy. We're going to go to level 1. And I'm going to go over to this kitchen area where we have a couple different types of floor materials, right? Some tile. If I hover on it, it says 5-inch slab on grade. That's the type of floor, but it's not the type of finish. So let's see how that works. And I'm going to go to the Annotate tab again to a new command here, and we're going to do material tag. Tags a selected element, description of the material. So start by picking that. If you haven't had one of these material tags at all made, you'll have to go browse for one in annotations, architectural material tag. It's saying to go get that family. This, in my case, I already have it loaded. Only one of them, but I have one. You need at least one, right? And I'm going to do 3 clicks. That's kind of the key to these. It'll change depending on which one I'm on, which material. I'm now hovering on this wall, gypsum wall board. It's like the outer layer basically. As I go into the interior of the wall, it's going to say light gauge steel framing, thermal air layer, interior finish. It doesn't know on that one. So let's just pick this porcelain tile floor. 1 click, 2 click, 3 click. We're done. A little annoying how you still need to move some of these out like so, and it's just having us do one last thing, go into the type and say edit type, tell what leader we want those types to keep coming in at. They all want arrow filled 15 degree. Hit OK. There's many different leader options. It changes it. We're going to continue to make multi-category tags. So these are a little more complex. This is material tag. Let's just say I copied this actually before we go on to that. Copy this here to here. It quickly picks up wherever it's touching the material. So that's pretty cool. But in multi-category tags, we're going to make a tag basically that keys in on the family name and the type name. So the family and the type, it's going to key on those 2 items when I select something. And I'm going to select some lights and various things. So it's going to grab those things, and we're going to select some interior components on the level 1 furniture plan. Give it a second to load. And that's going to be some of these items in here. It's going to quickly grab information about them. So let's see what that means. We don't have one already made, so you'll probably have to make one. I've already made one, so go through the steps on 771. I could make one again for you right now. I guess we could do File and New Family, because I guess there is quite a few steps to this. And we're going to go to the annotations folder to start from something. To make this family, we're going to say multi-level tag, multi-category tag. We'll say open. We're making our custom multi-category tag basically. It's going to have a center point thing, and we're going to say label. We're going to just pick somewhere close to the intersection, it doesn't have to be exact. We're going to add the parameters we want to make to this custom multi-category tag. And we're going to say F for family name, go over, we're going to say type name right here, go over, make sure that is selected on break, and we'll hit OK. And we're going to do file, save as, say as family. I would save it somewhere in where your project files are that you've been using for this class. And I would call it even call it chapter 16. I got all caps on wrong, but for now I'm just going to save it to my desktop. And last thing, easy to miss and they don't show you, we've done this a few times, we're going to load that into our project that we're already in. Loads it in. Now it's loaded in. And we're ready to add it. So we're going to go to annotate, multi-category. We literally only have one. We just made it. We saved it somewhere else on my desktop, but we also loaded it into this project. Two separate things there. So we saved it out and loaded it in this project. So it's in two, kind of in a way, two places. So I have it picked. We have a few options. Let's stay in this area actually. Where I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to make sure I'm in a level 1 furniture plan. Make sure you are too. We're going to add some the multi-category tags to these items. We'll go back to annotate, multi-category, and I'm going to select. Before I do that, it's saying make sure the leader's on, it's horizontal, attached end. Yours should be correct, but just check all these options that they're there. One click. And it's kind of interesting. I'm going to add another one to these shelves. They go in one click. Okay, you don't have to do 3 clicks on these. The first time I swear I had to. So I can move them around. Not always the best type of leaders, but you get the picture anyway, that I'm adding a lot of information of basically the family, say entertainment center, and then the type, 96 inch by 84 inch by 30. So I added those two things in this multi-tag. So it's the same thing. We're going to go to edit type here. One of the only options, let's just add something more, a little different. Arrow filled 30 degree this time, a fatter arrow. That's all we're doing there. The last area of this chapter, we're going to go into keynoting. So we can do a lot of different types of keynotes, and keynotes also can end up in a symbols legend. We can keynote by element, keynote by material, much like we did just a minute ago on the tags, and we can keynote by user. We're going to start with mostly keynoting by element, and we're going to go hit escape. We're going to make sure we're back in the level 1 floor plan. Zoom out a little bit. We're going to go to the annotate tab, and we're going to go to keynote over here, and keynote settings, a new area. this is wrong in the book. You got Revit 2020. They have like 2015 or something. They've missed adding a lot of these photos, but that's all right. This is the main thing you're looking for, that you have this txt file, this text file. Make sure you have that. And then this should be selected, radio button, and so should this by Keynote be on. Just make sure those are good. Hit OK. Go back here again. And we're going to go to Keynote, Element Keynote. That's one we want. Yep. And we're going to start adding some keynotes into, if we go over one. Before we do that, let's make sure we have the right type of keynote, type property. We're going to say keynote text. And we're just going to add some to these sconce lights, which, there they are. Click 1, click 2, click 3 is the trick on these. And now it's saying, what do I want here? So it's trying to say the keynotes menu to add what type of keynote value. So in this case, we're going to go deep into the matrix and say Division 26, interior lighting, and I think wall-mounted incandescent fixture is what we want. Yep. We'll hit OK. Populates it. Similar on these, they have different grips. I'm going to pick this, I'm going to move it a little bit, pick it again. I'm going to move it out like this, moving my landing zone on my leader a little bit. They don't work the best on the first one. Can also edit these as well, right? Let's add something crazy, a box, which you usually wouldn't do in this case, but you can also copy. I think you can copy these. Let's try it. Yeah, that worked. Or you could add another one like so. Still have the same one selected. You just got to do the formatting again, which kind of stinks. If you pick the right 3 clicks, you'll get it. There we go. That's the end of chapter 16. You can now do a bunch of different types of schedules, which populate down here, and edit and manipulate them. Make quantity takeoffs very specific, like the amount of sheets of plywood in square footage. You can edit them deeply. You can also start making legends graphically of symbols of almost anything you want and abbreviations. And that wraps up chapter 16.